Joining me for the chat today is Philip Ingram, former senior military intelligence officer. Morning once again to you.
Morning again. Nothing's happening as ever.
Nout, yeah, again.
Yeah.
You know, careful what you wish for, quiet times.
I'll just curl up in the corner, just go back to sleep.
Absolutely. I mean, it's just extra. I mean, people are genuinely talking today about this scandal involving the appointment of an ambassador by the Prime Minister. Could be the thing that actually brings Keir Starmer down. Finally, the backbenchers in his party are going, really, he's finally done enough to make you realise how useless he is?
There's a little pattern emerging here, and from an intelligence perspective, whenever you're analysing things, you look for patterns.
Yeah.
And there's a pattern across everything, and the pattern is Starmer, Hermer, McSweeney, Mandelson.
Keeps coming up.
And all of those keep coming up in just about everything. Chagall, you know, everything. That same pattern is there. There's something even bigger brewing. Does he survive? Whether it's this week, next month, does he? Are they going to hold on to the local elections? I think they're. Well, let's take it back a bit. Let's throw it back a bit, because the question I'm asking our audience is: the Prime Minister admits that he did know that Mandelson had stayed friends with Jeffrey Epstein after he was a convicted paedophile, and that at the time when he appointed him in December 2024 as our man in Washington. So I want to know: can Keir Starmer survive this? Because certainly the backbenchers are not looking like they're willing to suffer any more on his behalf. Give us a call, 0344 499 1000. Text the word talk in your message to 87222. Get in touch with us on X at TalkTV. Calls are charged at the national rate and text cost £1, standard network rate message. But let's have a little listen and watch of the exchange at P&Q's yesterday, which I think all of us watching and listening, we had it on the show live, had a bit of a when we actually had a very straight, very specific question from the Tory leader, Kemi Badenoch, and then a very unusually straight and specific response from the Prime Minister. But let's also stay and listen to the reaction from the Commons. Have a watch and a listen.
Can the Prime Minister tell us, did the official security vetting he received mention Mandelson's ongoing relationship with the paedophile Jeffrey Epstein?
So clear. Prime Minister?
Yes, it did.
Yes, it did. As in, yes, he absolutely had been given information. We now know a bit more detail, don't we, Philip Ingram, about the information he was given. Apparently 2 sides of A4, but a lot of it was kind of Google's. But he absolutely, 100%, we are told, that knew stuff which was already in the public domain. We already knew. It had been published in 2023 that Mandelson had stayed at Epstein's home in 2009. Where was Epstein? Epstein was currently in prison at that time, having pleaded guilty. He pleaded down, being guilty to soliciting a 14-year-old girl for prostitution. Of course, we know from these private messages between Epstein and Mandelson that Mandelson didn't believe that it was true, and he should fight it all the way, etc., etc. But nevertheless, that alone would have said, this guy got poor judgment. We can't possibly make him the ambassador for our country. You talked a bit earlier, and do explain to people who've just tuned in the level of vetting. Not just any ambassador, but the ambassador to Washington, who is going to be at the heart of not just trade talks, he's been in a EU trade commissioner, but security and defence issues at the highest level with our most important economic and security and defence ally.
Yeah. You get security clearance is a level, developed vetting is the next level, enhanced developed vetting, and then vetting above enhanced developed vetting to let you into compartments. Mandelson will have, or anyone being appointed to that as a civil servant will have had to have that enhanced developed vetting and read into compartments above that, including some American ones.
To see some top secret stuff.
Beyond top secret. This is compartmentalised. It's beyond top secret material. That's in
James Bond territory.
Very sensitive material. And His Majesty's ambassador to the United States has to be cleared to that sort of level. Therefore, Keir Starmer saying that he had 2 sides of A4 or that coming out and it was all in the public domain and all the rest of it. No, he will have been briefed on a lot of detail that will not and will never get into the public domain.
Would he personally, the Prime Minister, be briefed, or would it go to his staff? Again, it's up to him what he chooses to see.
It'll go to his staff, but if he personally has to make the decision, his staff then have to give him that.
And he would have personally made the decision, because we know. I mean, there are MPs who said they personally, Labour MPs, went into number 10 to say to the Prime Minister, you shouldn't appoint this man. And again, we had Adam Bolton on the show yesterday, who's a big friend of Peter Mandelson, and says, yes, what he's done was wrong. But it's all very easy with hindsight. But again, we knew a lot of this stuff was known in 2023, 2024. And as I've pointed out a million times, I thought the fact that he'd been sacked for wrongdoing on 2 occasions previously, yes, he was exonerated in terms of the lack of evidence in the Nduja passport affair. But I'm sorry, I think if I carried out the inquiry, I'm sorry, I don't think he was exonerated. I do not accept the outcome of that particular inquiry. Again, it was another case of I don't recollect whether or not I made a phone call and what I said in a phone call to a Home Office minister about this billionaire who I was mates with, passport. Were getting his British passport. Put it this way. I mean, he has no recollection of anything. Again, this man virtually has amnesia. I mean, he's in full-on dementia territory. His lack of memory. But the key thing is here is that enough people were warning him, and it was in the papers. People, commentators like me were saying this is a terrible idea. The idea that he wouldn't have gone, I think I probably need to be really sure. And it does sound like that he had a conversation in person or on the telephone with Mandelson, and he says basically Peter Mandelson lied to him personally. But here's the thing, if the security vetting is saying this guy's done this, this and this, and then he says, oh no, I didn't, but we already know he's a proven liar, that's already established. Why would the Prime Minister be allowed to ignore the security vetting? Well,
the Prime Minister is the Prime Minister, and therefore he will be given it as advice and can bypass that advice, and he has to record that. But the thing that I found really telling yesterday, whenever Keir Starmer stood up and said, made that admission that he knew, Keir Starmer is a seasoned barrister. He is a politician of sorts. He's used to giving the minimal amount of information as an answer whenever he's standing up in public. And he does that. And therefore,
I'm going to interrupt you because Keir Starmer's speaking. He's talking about Mandelson. Let's go straight to what the Prime Minister is saying.
For the same reason. Because they believe in service. Because they believe in duty. Because they believe in the public good. But that is not why some people do it. And that is not why Mandelson did it. And that sense of duty only matters if the standards of public life are upheld. And in recent days, serious allegations and serious evidence has emerged concerning Mandelson's conduct, including his relationship with Epstein, a convicted sex offender. It had been publicly known for some time that Mandelson knew Epstein, but none of us knew the depth and the darkness of that relationship. What has come to light has raised serious questions. Information that was not known at the time of his appointment. Before he was appointed ambassador, Mandelson was asked directly about the nature of his relationship with Epstein. He was asked whether he had stayed at Epstein after his conviction. And when, later, further information came to light, he was asked whether he had accepted gifts and hospitality, about whether he had been fully transparent about the relationship. The information now available makes clear that the answers he gave were lies. He portrayed Epstein as someone he barely knew. And when that became clear, and it was not true, I sacked him. Such deceit is incompatible with public service. Let me be clear, no one is above accountability. And no one, however well connected, however experienced, however senior, should hold public office if they cannot meet the basic test of honesty. I also want to address the publication of the information Mandelson provided during the appointment process. I understand the strength of public feeling. I share the anger that people feel when powerful individuals appear to escape scrutiny. And I want to be able to release those documents as quickly as possible. I wanted to release them yesterday, in fact, and to talk about them at Prime Minister's questions. but the police have advised that releasing certain information now could risk prejudicing a future investigation or legal process. And however frustrating from my personal point of view that is, and it is, I will not take any step, however politically tempting, however popular, that risks justice for victims. Because this is not and must never become a political game. The victims of Epstein have lived with trauma that most of us can barely comprehend. And they've had to relive it again and again. They have seen accountability delayed and too often denied. To them, I want to say this. I am sorry. Sorry for what was done to you. Sorry that so many people with power failed you. Sorry for having believed Mandelson's lies and appointed him. And sorry that even now you're forced to watch this story unfold in public once again. But I also want to say this. In this country, we will not look away. We will not shrug our shoulders. And we will not allow the powerful to treat justice as optional. We will pursue the truth. We will uphold the integrity of public life. And we will do everything within our power and in the interests of justice to ensure accountability is delivered. That is what the public expects. That is what the victims deserve. And it is what I will do. Now, I'm here today in Hastings.
Right, well, that was obviously the section of the speech where Keir Starmer wanted to address. I mean, let's face it, the huge herd of elephants in the room, because no one's there to hear about his speech about unity and announcing a cash injection of £800 million to local communities around the country. I'm sorry, they're not. Everyone wanted to hear what he had to say when it came to this extraordinary scandal involving Mandelson and the Prime Minister's decision to appoint him, despite all the evidence that we knew at the time. Now, what was very interesting there, Philip Ingram's face, by the way, absolute picture throughout that. Can we just talk about the tone? Again, he does this in sorrow, not in anger. This tone. This is his tone that he uses when I want you to be believed. He also uses this phrase, "Let me be clear." Whenever he says that, I'm always like, oh, you're about to obfuscate. But he kept talking about the information that's now emerged, information not known at the time of his appointment. Again, some of this stuff was absolutely not known at the time of his appointment. But our point is, enough was known. He said Mandelson was asked directly. It would appear not by... He doesn't say I asked him directly. Mandelson was asked directly. That's lawyer speak, isn't it? Was asked directly about his relationship with Epstein, including had he stayed at Epstein's home. This was something that had already come out in 2023, a report, I think the FT, from JP Morgan. They'd done an internal report that got leaked. Also asked later if he'd accepted any gifts or hospitality from him, which he clearly had, including $75,000, which probably doesn't remember at all. He said, the information is now available, realised that the information that Mandelson had given them was untrue and he was sacked. He's talked about Mandelson's deceit. He said no one is above accountability. I think the Prime Minister may find that that applies to him as well. And he said he also wanted to release a load of the documents in relation to this before PMQs and discuss them at PMQs, but the police have advised it could prejudice any future investigation. Again, the interesting thing is that is an investigation into wrongdoing by Peter Mandelson in terms of it's not illegal to go and stay at your mate's house if he's got a conviction for paedophilia. It would be illegal though if you showed misconduct in public office as a minister and you leaked private correspondence between the Prime Minister as advisors, which could be financially sensitive. But I don't see what the Prime Minister knew or didn't know when he appointed him about his relationship with Mandelson. with Epstein. I don't see at all how that could be part of that investigation. But he says this is not and must never become a political game. I mean, might be a bit too late for that, Prime Minister. But it's interesting you talked about the victims, and I'm sorry what happened to you. I'm sorry so many people with power let you down, and I'm sorry for having believed Mandelson's lies and appointed him. I know that he and his advisors will think, hope, believe, that's it, end of the matter. I don't think that even begins to cover it. He knew enough not to appoint him, and he did it anyway. Can of worms
being
out
opened.
there. Yeah.
Oh, 100%. He's a barrister. He's Prime Minister. He chooses his words very carefully.
Yeah.
But you're running through all of the thread of that is a complete load of smelly stuff. He's lying to us. He turned around and said he wanted to release all the documents yesterday. Well, the amendment that came out of number 10 that then had to be manually amended, which is highly unusual, did not want to release all of the documents. No. It wanted to keep control of them. His apology to the victims is the thing that really worries me, because at the moment it's all about Mandelson's relationship to Epstein, not Mandelson's causing harm to people that are in there outside that relationship.
He played the gay card and he knew nothing about it.
Yeah, and therefore Starmer has just directly linked Mandelson to victims. So
which Mandelson, by the way, in his first interview is all about all of this. Didn't mention, he actually did a second interview, I remember a few weeks ago, basically to say, yes, OK, because he said, I wasn't party to any of this. So,
yeah, and therefore there's clearly more that's in there. And then Starmer turned around and said, he's very careful about some information that has come subsequently. Yes, as you said, there will be some new information, but he will have known all of the other stuff in more than enough to turn around and say Mandelson is not suitable for this appointment.
But again, we're into this ridiculous situation. So you've got these reports, you've got these claims that somebody stayed, he stayed at his house and he's still in contact. He, by all accounts, was still in contact, I think, till 2016 with Epstein. Of course, he was arrested in 2019 and died. Some believe, officially committed suicide. I don't believe that. I don't think a lot of people believe that. But I doubt Mandelson believes that. He would have known him very well. But again, so a lot of this information was collected, and then you say he or someone else says to Morgan McSweeney, Mandelson's protege, really asks Mandelson, is this true? Is this not true? And Mandelson lies. Mandelson lies, as I said, I've said this many times, he lies four times before breakfast. I think he is such a narcissist. I think we are into. I'm no psychotherapist, but same with Epstein. I think we're into basically, we're psychopathy. I can't even say the word psychopathy there. I can't even say it, because literally a psychopath in terms that they don't see anyone else's needs or wants or anything to be any. They are the centre of their universe. And Prince Andrew's the same, the centre of their universe, and everything is about them. They are the sun god. And they don't think about other people's feelings or how things affect them or what other people might want or what their feelings would be. But what's interesting in the last 24 hours is, again, there's so many more of these documents to go through. There are millions of them. And even with the search mechanism, not everything is coming up until later. One of the things that Mandelson said, he had nothing to do with the sexual side of Epstein's life. He was shielded from all of that. And yet, again, there's pictures of him in his tighty-whities with a young woman in a dressing gown. What was that? Who was that young woman? We don't know. Doesn't remember. In Epstein's flat in Paris. But there's also a whole load of exchanges of emails, which are very sexual by nature. With Epstein joking about sex parties, Epstein joking about prostitutes. He was going to see after leaving prison. Although he was out of prison most of the time anyway. Who are we kidding? He literally did about 2 hours a day in prison. He had a absolute joke of a sentence. But also Mandelson joking about, fanciable, people in government and well-hung young men and things. So, the idea that he was completely shielded, that was just a sort of business uptight relationship, absolute nonsense. He's been pictured at all of his homes. He's been pictured again and again, scantily clad, these emails. He was clearly very, very much involved in Epstein's life. And the idea that anybody could be very involved in Epstein's life and not be aware that there was sexual abuse of young girls below the age of consent daily happening. Some of these girls said they were raped 3 times a day, okay? The idea that he was not aware of that is becoming less and less believable.
And the idea that Starmer knew nothing about that is less and less believable. What struck me there was you get in setting people up for, I need to talk to you about some formal things. There's going to be the informal interview and the formal interview. The informal interview is you brief your chief of staff and say, right, counsel him as to what to say. I'm going to ask this question.
That's what they do.
This has to be the answer. I don't want any detailed explanation. Don't want anything else. He just needs to answer it with those words.
If he says no...
Yeah.
But here's the thing, you've got evidence from the security
no.
services saying he did stay at his house. These things are pretty. You know, let's look at your records on British Airways. Let's look at your, you know, again.
You said they would have. They would have.
But you said they would have gone through his bank statements.
Oh, God,
his bank statements, and, well, unless these documents are all completely false, we have to give that.
They access them. You have to give permission.
No, unless the stuff we've seen in the Epstein files is completely false. That $75,000 was paid over a few months from Jeffrey Epstein to Peter Mandelson.
But there'll have been other documents in there, and they will access his bank accounts. They'll access his credit cards.
That alone, each individual fact that was already known or would have been known by the security services if they'd done anything other than just sort of, you know, looked at Google. In fact, even Googling it would have found every single bit of each individual one would, in normal circumstances, be enough. Raise a big enough red flag that he would stop. It would stop the appointment.
Oh yeah,
am I not right?
It would stop the vetting. You recommend the vetting authorities recommend to the decision makers and say we cannot sign off the vetting on this particular individual. If the decision maker, i.e. the Prime Minister, then goes, I hear what you say, but I'm going to sign it off anyway, then the responsibility is passed on to the Prime Minister. This is a risk process that's passing the risk from the vetting authorities to the decision maker at the top. It's up to them whether they listen to or don't listen to that advice.
Yeah, absolutely extraordinary. Your reaction to that, you've heard what he had to say, the Prime Minister. I mean, I think there's going to be a Q&A afterwards with journalists. We'll see what else comes out of it, but he's got his little lawyer form of words. I just don't think it's going to wash with the general public. I don't think it washes with any of it. I think there's going to be another revelation tomorrow that's going to put paid to all of that, and that's the trouble. 11